Hey, I'm BraaiPie, and you may or may not know this, but a few months ago I started this channel as a passion project. I've been watching and playing Minecraft all my life, and between YouTubers and gameplay, it has formed some of my most cherished memories. So I decided to start a SMP series, just to see where it takes me, and we've come a long way since that first episode. I set out in this series on a mission to improve my building skills, as it has been a long time goal of mine, but we've learned so much more than that along the way. We've graduated from CapCut as an editing software, we've learned some graphic design which has since opened some career options for me, we've done some redstone builds, some shading, some texturing, and it's just been an all-round good time. What I'm trying to get at is that it's been a blast running this channel, and I wanted to do something unique for my 100 subscriber special. So today we'll be taking a look back at the 10 episodes that currently stand as the BraaiPie SMP series, and reflecting by ranking all my builds in a tiered list. We've done a few builds since we started, some episodes featuring more than one at a time, and we're going to be ranking them in the categories of functionality and aesthetics, giving them a rounded score which will determine their spot on the tier list. So let's get straight into it. The first build I did on this series was the villager breeder. I always try to start out a world with a villager breeder, and this was no different. All that differs here was that I just started out with my channel. I had zero experience and zero expectations. It was a struggle working off the reference image I had chosen, and the build had no depth or interesting features. So I'm going to have to go ahead and give it a solid 2 for aesthetics. Functionality wise though, it has helped with almost every build since, namely the library, marketplace, and the most recent greenhouse build. So functionally, I'll have to award it with a 6, giving the villager breeder a generous score of 4 out of 10 and making it C tier. Next up, we got the Enchanting Tower. The vision behind this build was that I wanted to slow progression by not upgrading my armor immediately, but that's hard if you're farming for a bunch of builds. So I wanted to do a max level enchantment setup, and of course I had to do a build for it. I particularly liked this build as I really started to experiment with new blocks, textures and interior here. I made use of some oxidizing copper, which took forever to farm up with iron tools. So in the end I would give the wizard tower a 6 out of 10. I think it looks pretty good. It only serves as an enchanting setup, so functionally I would rank it as a 3 in my current state of progression, especially since we have the library. That makes the tower a 4.5 out of 10. We can make that a 5, just to round it up. And we'll put that baby in B tier. For the next build, I was really feeling the building streak of the wizard tower, up until I got started. I found myself going through a lot of iron tools due to my progression limitations, and with no XP for the new enchanting setup, I decided to attempt an aesthetic iron farm. There are some really nice ones out there, but I wanted to try and do my own thing. And so I came up with this watermill type build. Not the best looks wise, and probably my least favorite in that category, so I'll have to give it a 1 in that category. Since upgrading to diamond, I haven't found myself using a lot of iron unless I lose my shears or need to earn a quick emerald. So although an iron farm is an essential build, I'll give it a 3 for functionality. That puts the iron farm as our first D tier build, and I have to agree with that rating. In episode 4, I worked on a few builds, like the trading library, Steve's lava chicken, and a quick bridge build. Let's focus on Steve's lava chicken for now. I really like this build. I designed it from looking at the scene from the movie, and it was a really good time. For this reason, I'll give it a strong 7. Use-wise, believe it or not, and accurate to the movie, Steve's lava chicken is not very effective as a food source at all. It definitely lacks in the functionality category, destroying more chicken in the lava than it produces. So I have to give it a 1 out of 10. That makes Steve's lava chicken another C-lister with a score of 4. Now let's get back to that trading center build. I had a really hard time designing this trading center. I was fed up with farming with iron tools and uninspired, but nonetheless, I think it turned out pretty good. It's fun and colorful, and also one of my top useful builds to do when starting a new world. So I'll give it a 6 in both categories, making it another B-lister. After feeling so uninspired in the library build, I really feel we made a comeback with this one. In desperate need of some XP, I wanted to do a mob farm build, but mob farms are super ugly structures, so I covered mine up with an airship. The design on this build took especially long, and not to mention farming for the materials, but it stands as one of my favorite and most useful builds to date. I'll give the SS BraaiPie a 8 out of 10 for looks, and a 6 out of 10 for functionality. Only to improve when we get our elytras. It's stockpiling a lot of gunpowder as we speak. That makes the mob farm our first A-lister with a 7 out of 10. Next up, I wanted to give some honorable mentions. These builds weren't really about being functional, but I still managed to give them some minor functionality, so I do want to include them on the list. First up is the How to Train Your Dragon build, which I felt inspired to do around the time the live action dropped. This build is close to my heart, as How to Train Your Dragon was also a really big part of my childhood. I also made use of some gradients for the first time in the series. I decided to turn it into some kind of premature elytra hub with a bunch of breeze launchers, since we didn't have dragons to store or use. And that brings me to the Happy Ghost build, which is also a hangar of sorts. I started designing this when the Happy Ghost update dropped, and it was also just a good time build. Nothing technical, just a fun creative project. I wanted to expand on the airship thing a bit as well, and ended up attaching a Happy Ghost to a Da Vinci flying machine, which I think turned out to be super cool. Also got to use some gradients on this build. It's not really a useful build other than storing your flying friend, so I'm gonna put these builds in a category of their own, since they don't really have much of a function and I can't bring myself to put them lower than A tier. Now we'll be getting into my favorite builds in the series so far, but before we do, maybe drop a like and subscribe if you've been enjoying the video so far. Go ahead, I'll just wait up. Anyways, next up we've got my all-time favorite build. Specifically because of the redstone, which took forever to do. And that's the Blacksmith Supersmelter build. I really love the look, even though I definitely struggled to focus on the aesthetic section, as I had to cover up a plethora of farms and redstone contraptions. How this build works is it uses a kelp farm to power a self-sufficient kelp block smelter, which outputs all the leftover kelp blocks into a super smelter. It's a really clever system I adapted from Mumbo Jumbo's build and just put a nice covering over. As I said, this is one of, if not my favorite builds I've done on this series. And for that reason, I'll have to rank it at 8 for aesthetics. Even though the main work that went into this build was for the functional part, technically speaking it's not so useful. But it gets style points, so I'll give it a 7. That makes the Supersmelter an 8 out of 10. And our second A tier build. Finally, the latest build and the biggest thorn in my side for the longest time, using over 60 stacks of stained glass, and which took a whole other video of preparing building a Supersmelter, the greenhouse. The greenhouse has been a dreaded build mentioned throughout the BraaiPie SMP series, and I finally just got started with it. This build incorporates auto farms for all the most useful plants in the game. A pumpkin and melon farm with an autocrafter to craft the melon slices into melons. A sugarcane and bamboo farm. And in the main section, 4 crop farms, each with 2 villagers and 1 of the 4 crops. In the center of the build is the great collection tree, in which allays deposit the crops they collect from the farmer villagers to be stored at the base of the tree. All in all, this build is one of my most functional and aesthetic builds, and for that I'll put it in the A tier with a 7 for aesthetics and a 9 for functionality. Alright, that's my final ranking. So I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And maybe go check out some of my other videos if you liked some of the builds. They are all featured in their own separate video on my channel. That said, if you'd like to join me in this journey of bettering my building, or just to see what will be the first S tier build, I'd really appreciate you guys subscribing. And by the way, I just posted a link to all my builds in my YouTube bio, so go check it out. This is BraaiPie signing out.